Dan Davidson is speaking today. He's the director of the CNRG group, and he will be speaking about data storage. In 2 weeks, we are having a special lunch with the Corps designed to cover something called Book It Lab. So we are changing our tracking software in the Corps. And so if you're a Core user or you know someone who's a Core user, let them know to come to that lunch with the Core. We'll make sure people are transitioned to the new tracking software. You'll need new logins. You will be using SSO logins. And so we'll do new tracking software, new billing software, and all of that. But today we're listening to Dan, so welcome Dan.
All right. Thanks a lot. Good news. I'm going to try to make my presentation today pretty quick today. But the reason why I want to do that is because I would really appreciate a bit of communication at the end where we can discuss kind of some topics that I bring up today, and I'd like to get some feedback from everybody. So with that, we'll go ahead and hop in and get started. Maybe. That's on. There we go. All right. So, the scary thing that I want to make everybody aware of is that all of the cloud storage vendors, we're talking Box, we're talking Google, we're talking Microsoft, they're all changing how they do business this year. Google is going through and they were the first, and then everybody else very quickly fell into the line behind them on that. So, what this is looking at is Box.net is looking like at the end of this year they're going to be charging everybody $130 a terabyte a year to store data in Box. Google Workspaces are going to also have a quota where the free Google Workspace has a 20 gigabyte limit as well. And then after that, they're going to be charging $130 a terabyte a year. Microsoft 365 will have a 100 terabyte limit for all of campus. That includes OneDrive, email, and everything in Teams for the entire University of Illinois campus. At least that's what we were told. I'm not entirely sure that's true, because that seems like an awful small amount of number for that amount of data. But both Google and Microsoft are making these changes in July. So if you need extra Google data storage, you're going to have to pay right at $130 a terabyte a year. And Microsoft, we need to figure out exactly what that means. That's an exact quote that I took from somebody, so we'll see what that means here in a few weeks. So the point I'm trying to make here is you're not going to solve your solution by moving from one campus cloud storage solution to another. Because all three of them are changing what they're doing. So we don't want you moving your data, all of your data from Google and into Box, because then you're going to have the exact same problem in December that you had in July. So going forward, effective immediately, if you're part of a grant writing team or anything, whatever data you're storing, you need to budget $130 a terabyte a year to store your data. BioCluster is a little cheaper than that. You can use the file server for free and then put stuff in the archive. But pretty much as a general rule of thumb, $130 a terabyte a year is the place where you want to be. So this was just announced in late February. I know if you all may not be concerned, but some people are extremely concerned about this. We're working on solutions. We'll keep everybody up to speed on what we need to do. We should have a list of who is supposed to be more affected on Tuesday next week. But then again, I was also told I should have that list before the end of February, and I still don't have that list. So as soon as I get a list of names of who has all the data in the cloud and is going to be most affected, I will start contacting people to figure out what's going on there and what we need to do with them. So hopefully Tuesday next week I'll have more information on that. That's the scary part. And the rest of this is more on how on getting some more information out there and also trying to develop some partnerships here. Both the NIH and the NSF have created offices to evaluate data storage and management plans. Right now, if you write a grant, whenever you submit it, pretty much every granting agency that's out there wants you to have a data storage or data management plan or data management and sharing plan. They're all pretty much the same words for the same thing. Historically, people have been able to submit these plans by just copying and pasting their data management plan from grant to grant to grant, and no one really ever looked at it. Nobody really cared. There have been some pretty high-profile areas where that didn't work out real well. So the NIH and the NSF have changed their mind, and they have made departments that now do this for them. I've met with these people over Zoom and talked with them. They know what they're doing. So if you don't have a good data management plan, they will know you do not have a good data management plan. From starting actually a year ago, whenever you submit a plan to NIH or NSF, all plans are being scored now. And this has actually been been a decision point between whether or not a grant was funded or not funded within the last year. If you don't know how the grant funding works, your proposal is assigned a score, and so let's say they have enough money to assign 10 people, to give 10 people money, then they give their top 10 scores the grants in general. And if you lose points on your data management plan, you have less of a chance of getting funded. The IGB has a data management and sharing team, which right now consists of me, because our data management and sharing professional is unexpectedly going to be out of the office for an extended period of time. So eventually I'll have somebody to help me there, but until then, I'm trying to fill that gap right now. The NIH during 2023 developed a template to help make these data management plans more like what they were looking for, because they found out that nearly everybody was leaving some piece of information out of these plans. So other things that they look for and give points for, if somebody who's external to the research team is auditing the data management plan. So what does that mean? Everybody hears the word audit and they think the IRS, and that's scary. All this means is that you have somebody who's not part of the research team that looks at what you're doing and makes sure that it matches up to what you said you were going to do in the data management plan. So if you said you were going to store all of your data in Box, for instance, but then you ended up storing all of your data on external hard drives, they would see that, hey, you're putting your data on external hard drives instead of into Box. What's up with that? And that's essentially the audit. No one's going through and looking to find stuff. Our IT department's been audited this year, which wasn't a great time. Our Ledger 3 accounts are getting audited right now, and despite everything Geo does, it's still not a great time. But this isn't intended to be more than just a healthy check-in to make sure that you're doing what you said you were going to do. It shouldn't be I really need a better word than audit because it's a little scary. What also gains you points is if you really make a plan to safeguard the data. Something that I like to do in all of our data management plans is have a 3-2-1 backup, 3-2-1 plan in place, which is 3 copies of your data on 2 different types of media, one of which is in another building. So let's say you have your data on BioCluster, and you also have the same data on the file server, and you also have the same data in BioArchive. Then you have a 3-2-1 data plan there. You have 3 copies of your data in 2 different on 2 different types of media, and one of which is in another building. It's awfully hard to lose data if you do that. If you just have 1 or 2 copies of your data, it can get pretty easy to lose data with 1 or 2 copies, right? And if you wanted to know what the NIH template looks like, this is the first page of one of those that we put in. The text is really small, but you get the idea. It's a Adobe document with many fields that you populate and enter in, and you answer questions and you fill stuff in. And so long as you answer the questions and you fill everything in appropriately, like 85% of all the data management plans that use this form are successful and are given high scores. So, another issue I wanted to talk about was what I would call data stability issues in the IGB, and this is the number one thing I'm trying to get communication out about and get input on. Research data in individual labs, it seems, is being stored on non-enterprise devices. So what are non-enterprise devices? External hard drives, thumb drives, laptops, personal computers. And whenever you have data that's stored this way, you have a lot of problems that come with that. And that's, you have a single point of failure. Think about it this way. If you have an external hard drive and that hard drive fails, then all the data is gone on that hard drive. There's no backup of these usually. Our desktop backup system is only meant to back up really like 200 gigabytes a person and not much more than that. They can be easily lost or stolen. All of those types of media that I mentioned can very easily just walk away one day. They're also very slow. You won't get the performance on it, especially if you have like a laptop, a little bitty travel laptop hard drive. You're lucky if you're going to get 50 megabytes a second off of that, and if you're moving a lot of data, that'll take a long time. And they're unmanaged, and what I mean by unmanaged is that nobody's looking to make sure that that device is healthy. When we set up a device, whether it's a server or some sort of a disk array, we have some way of looking at that server and disk array and making sure it's functioning the way it should be. And if it's not, we get an alarm that tells us that there's a problem. What we're really trying to look at here is why are these choices being made, because we don't understand why. We're looking for information here. Another issue is that data that even if it is on enterprise devices, services like Box or like the file server here in the building, they're stored in user-based areas as opposed to group-based areas. And the problem with that is if it's stored in a user-based area, when that user leaves, that data is deleted. So let's say you put data in Box.net and then you share it with your faculty member. 30 days after your last day on campus, that data will be deleted, even though you're sharing it with other people. That is your data in your directory, and 30 days after you leave, it will be gone. And there's nothing we can do about it. Another reason why this can be an issue is because data can be withheld. If data is in your personal directory, campus treats it as if you own it and not your faculty member that you work for owns it. If let's say you cross the street and you get hit by a bus and you can't share a file with somebody, the campus won't fix that for your faculty member. That file will, for all intents and purposes, just be gone. And it also clouds the needs of groups as well. Let's say 3 of you work for the same faculty member and all 3 of you have 20 terabytes of data that you're working with all the time. What I see is 3 moderate users of our data storage systems. What I don't see is 1 faculty member who has a large 60 terabyte data need that I probably need to sit down with and talk to. So it really can kind of cloud things and get in the way of trying to help people. So what's our solutions here? We can build more infrastructure. We can make the file server bigger. I don't know if we need to do that yet, but that's an option that we have. That can also help with the box.net issues that we have coming. We can create what's called a private cloud offering. There's a open source piece of software called Nextcloud that we're looking into, and that's an option that we can have. And, we might have our own IGB cloud service like Box.net. There's also a program or a software storage solution called Ceph that we're looking into. We tried to do that as part of BioCluster, probably like 7-8 years ago, and we were a little too early to the party there. But Ceph is much more mature now, and my guess is this summer we will build some sort of a Ceph cluster to hold data in the building, and we'll at least try setting up Nextcloud on that so we can have like our own little IGB cloud service that people can use. Another thing that we're thinking about doing in the fall is visiting themes and labs to discuss what services we offer. We did this before COVID, and then COVID stopped the practice. And it's been very hard for us to start it again because personally for our group, everybody's had children or had health problems, and it's just been a struggle over the last 3 to 4 years for us to start meeting the themes. Additionally, we designed everything with the idea of there only being like 7 or 8 themes in the building, and there are much more than 7 or 8 themes in the building right now. So our models of how we plan to do things are a little bit different now than what they were originally designed to be. Maybe we need to tweak that a little bit. But we do need to start maybe going out and visiting like theme group meetings or something like that and giving a talk similar to this that talks about the services that we provide and are available. Maybe that's a good thing. Another thing that we're thinking about is ripping off Glenn's idea of Lunch with the Core and having something like Lunch with CNRG this fall, where we would do something like 8 different meetings kind of like this where we can talk about individual things like how do you set up how should you organize your GitHub sites, what's a good way to organize data for a lab, what are some simple commands in Linux to get me started with using Linux. Stuff kind of like that is what we're kind of thinking about. We would like to if we do that, we would like to have all of those different topics identified before the start of the fall semester. And actually, I would like to have all of those talks written before the start of the fall semester. So that way I'm not writing one between every time we give one. All right? And then, that kind of gets me into the questions that I kind of wanted to propose to this group today. Things like, why are people looking to use external devices when the file server is a free service? Why are some users deploying their own resources? Every year we have somebody in a lab somewhere in the building who's trying to deploy a storage server that is much less capable than the file server is. And I don't understand why that is. And I have never been able to really get good answers of why people are looking to do things like that. Are the IGB's resources cost effective? We charge for BioArchive, we charge for BioCluster, we charge for various things that we do. Are those costs too high for what everyone's getting? I know our storage costs on BioCluster are going to be lower than what the costs are going to be for Box.net and all the other cloud services, but it's also not as full featured. So maybe you're not getting as much as what you would like for what you're paying for there. Do we have enough storage capacity and speed to meet your needs? BioCluster right now is somewhere between 75 and 80% full, which is a nice healthy level. But maybe we're missing something there, and if we are, I would like to know. Would there be interest if we offered workshops for data management practices? Right now, it seems like most faculty in the building manage their data by having a lab folder and just having everybody chuck all their data into that one folder in some form that they think makes sense. Would it be helpful if we came up with a template for like how labs should manage their data and then encourage people to start using that? And then how would we know if that template was something that was useful? That's a thought that we've had. How can we encourage users to store data in group areas as opposed to home folders that are private to them, or private folders, I guess we should say. And then can we have a better data management onboarding for staff and postdocs, and what would that look like? These are ideas and these are questions that I have no answers for. These are questions that what I would like to do is find a group of people to partner with and then work on solutions with. And the last one, and maybe the most important one, is can labs or themes identify a data manager to work with us? And that kind of goes into that group thing that I was talking about here. If we can get a group of people who are willing to meet with us and tell us what we don't know, because I'm sure there's stuff that we don't know that we don't understand. If we can just meet with some people who can tell us what we don't know, we would love to partner with everybody to try to come up with some data storage solutions and management solutions that would work well. Right? And with that, I'm ready for questions, but I'm going to back it up to here in case somebody wants to bring up one of these points. Thank you.
I actually might have sorry.
Somebody said something, but I can't recognize who it was.
I raised my hand. It's awesome on Zoom. Just the preference of external devices. I run into this a lot because when I train people, I always show them the file server. I'd say it's usually a pretty good response. I used to be I've done it different ways. Sometimes I've kind of said like, hey, we've had issues with viruses in the past with terms of USB drives, and people seem to respond to that.
Yeah.
But sometimes people look at how I get to the file server. I set up a shortcut for them, and their next question is, can I use Box? Or can I use a thumb drive anyway? Mm-hmm. And I don't, it is kind of this, they're just used to it, I think. So I've had a little bit more success of maybe emphasizing that we don't allow it, or I don't know that we really do a lot to stop them, but it's not. So that's kind of where, that's been my experience with that, and I don't have much to say except that it does just seem that that's what they're used to.
Yep. And thank you, Austin. Austin brings up a good point. I didn't even bring up the security issues with putting a USB device into a machine. By the way, this is the security public service announcement of the day. If you ever find a USB device, for instance, this is by far the coolest USB key I have ever seen because it's an actual USB key. It's been sitting up in the front of this room because somebody left it here who knows how long ago. This may have even been here pre-COVID. I have no idea. So this could be like from 2019. Never stick a USB key that you find into a machine that you care about, because there is a significant chance that this could be either virus laden or they even have devices that look like USB keys that are nothing more than a capacitor and an electrical connection that are made to short out your laptop whenever you stick it into them. So never, ever, ever stick a USB key in anything that you value. But yes, USB key or portable devices are easily stolen because, you know, the very thing that makes them handy, the fact that they're portable, makes them easy to take. I would even throw laptops into that category. The number of people who store research data on laptops is just crazy high, and that needs to stop. Anybody else have any questions or comments or thoughts? Yes?
So I actually heard a very similar story just yesterday from SCSA, because like our group kind of worked closely with the SCSA, and they also mentioned like, okay, we're going to lose this storage, and then we are trying to prepare some solution for it. But I think that maybe the question I want to ask is depending on what type of data we want to store, somewhat like we are kind of looking for different type of storage as well, right? Like
Yeah.
if we want like some archival storage for our alumni, or if we want to store some like very online, like we want to have fast access, upload and download speed for our research. Like, are you going to like prepare like different solution for this difference in the needs or?
So this Ceph system that we're building will be extremely high performance, if that's what you're looking for. We're actually having to buy new networking equipment to work with that. Well, it'll start off with 3 nodes. It won't be able to hold a lot of data, but each node is capable of going over 50 gigabits a second, and will give us at least 100 gigabits a second of throughput anywhere, which is faster than the network connection we have to this building and faster than what we have connecting to any other building on campus. So whenever you start talking about, you know, having a solution for your data, what I look at more on that is, okay, what type of data do you have? Do you have a bunch of small files? Do you have a bunch of do you have a small number of large files? You know, usually you fall on one end or the other of that spectrum. And I'll be honest with you, a bunch of small files is very, very hard to support from a disk file system standpoint, because when you get too small, then you're a database. You're not writing to files. You're writing data to a database, and then on the big end, it's just a file system. It's that very small edge where you're just above what a database can do, but you're smaller than what a file system likes to do. That's a problem. And what my intention was on trying to help with those issues was I'm hoping that this Ceph system will be able to support it better, but we won't know until we build it and we try it. The small file problem is a very common problem with biological stuff, because honestly, a lot of the people who write the programs that do the work are lazy, and it's very easy just to write small files out to a file system. There's lots of other technologies like HDF or even little small individual SQLite databases that can maybe step in and fill that gap. But if your needs are like purely store capacity and performance based, it's our hope that there will be a host of different solutions in terms of capacity and performance that exist. Actually, whenever you think about a disk system, it's a triangle of cost, capacity, and performance. And you can only have 2 at a time. And you can have capacity and performance, but you can't have it cheaply. You can have cheap and capacity, you can have cheap performance, but then if you have cheap performance, you can't have capacity. And if you have cheap capacity, then you can't have performance. So it's our goal to try to build at least a couple of different resources with different legs of that triangle that we can use to meet needs. Anybody else? In the back?
I guess I'll just kind of start out a comment.
Okay.
And then maybe this would be like a much longer arching goal, but I don't know if there could be any coursework on that, because like specific programs, like I don't even have statistics required for my master's.
Mm-hmm.
So data management is like way outside the question. But if there was workshops or maybe some kind of maybe a combination class with statistics, that could be very advantageous to a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I think but yeah, I think you're right. I think that's after we get this off the ground a little bit, and let's just be honest. Right now, no one knows what we're doing yet. I get this. We don't know how to help, and the researchers don't know how to engage. So we need to get over that hurdle where we have a clue on what we can do to help you, and we also have, and the research side, they know how to interface with us whenever they find something that they're unsure about. Once we crack that, then I think we're on our way to getting somewhere. Anybody else? Yep.
Excuse me. This almost seems like it has to come top down from like the PI, like require they have a folder and then all of their employees are storing in that folder.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that would have to come top down from IGB if you're an IGB affiliate.
I'm working in the problem on both ends. So,
I guess
yeah.
on the other end is, since we don't currently have a data auditor as a person,
Mm-hmm.
if you created some kind of questionnaire survey thing, these are the things that really trouble us. Are you doing these things?
Mm-hmm.
And just send that out to everybody in RGB. Because just maybe asking them, are you using a USB to store data, would be enough for them to be like, oh, is that bad? Things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Maybe we need to do like a data survey of the IGB, of the faculty. I'll be honest with you. This presentation, almost slide per slide, it changed a little bit, but was first given to the executive committee a month ago. And I wanted to come up with something newer and better for this month, and I didn't have anything to move the needle. I was hoping I would have some data that I could use to help out, but that didn't happen. But yes, you are correct. It does need to happen on both ends, from top down. But what I'm really hoping is that some of you can go to your faculty and say, hey, I was in a meeting today and this guy had a great idea. Let's get a group box.net folder. Let's get a group folder in our theme area of the file server for us to share data in. And every time I've talked to a faculty member about this, it seemed like they were like, oh, that's obviously a good idea. So I'm hoping that maybe from the grassroots level, we can try to implement some change as well. Yep.
So you said we should store data in 3 places.
Mm-hmm.
And we deal with, the core, we deal on the front lines when they're actually taking the data.
Mm-hmm.
We tell them to put it on the file server. What are the other 2 places we should be going to?
So with the file server, you're actually handling 2 parts of that, because once data is on the file server, 1, it's on the file server, and 2, it also gets backed up each day. And then once those tapes get full at the end of the month, we send them off to an abandoned aircraft, an underground abandoned Cold War era aircraft hangar at the old Chinook Air Force Base north of here. They have a tape facility there where you can store tapes offsite. So rest assured that if you've had data and the University of Illinois gets nuked, your data will survive. Believe it or not, that the campus got audited on that, and that's why it exists. So, yeah, when I say our audits aren't fun, like that's what I mean by they aren't fun. Like things that seem ridiculous. But you're accomplishing 2 of those goals right there. The third place, putting it in box wouldn't be a bad idea. I would prefer it be stored if you know it's good data that you're going to be publishing. My opinion is that data needs to be put in bioRxiv. Because BioArchive, whenever you put data in there, you're storing data on two different pieces of tape whenever you store it in BioArchive. So if you have your data on BioClustr and on the file server, and you have your data on BioArchive, you have a local copy to each of those systems, and you also have another copy that's stored offsite from each of those systems. So actually, like it's a 4-2-2 instead of a 3-2-1. So all those numbers are higher, so that's better. But putting it in Box would be an okay option, and any cloud resource would be an okay option as well. Go ahead.
So some of our users come from engineering or wherever else on campus, and a lot of those departments have their own version of your group and provide free storage or some version of storage. Do you work with those other groups? Well, and the faculty are the same picture, right? They work here and there. Do you work with other groups on how this is all supposed to fit together?
So we do work together on how to get data transferred between the buildings. And really, once we get good paths to transfer data between the buildings, then we kind of take a hands-off approach and let all of the researchers do what they want to do with that. I just have vision to what our services are here. I'm proud of our services. I think they're better than what most other places have on campus. But if somebody would rather store their data in a free service at MCB or something that NCSA has or something that engineering has, like those are all good. All those people know what they're doing. So those are all good options. Yep.
Do you have publicly accessible instructions, like is it on your website for best practices? Is it in an email that went out to IGB or?
So we put all of our information on our help.igb.illinois.edu page. That's a good idea. I don't think we have anything on. We have information documenting what we offer. We have not gone so far as telling people what they should do or what a good data management practice is. That's actually part of me coming here today and asking for input. Because I can tell you what I think is a good data management plan and what a good organizational structure is, but I'm not the one who does your jobs. So there's a lot that I probably don't understand. There's a lot that I'm probably missing. I would love to find a group of 5 to 10 people to meet with a handful of times and try to develop what we think is a good solution that we could give as a template for everything.
So if we wanted to go back to a lab meeting after this and start talking about this, what would be a good way to structure that?
What would
Be a good way to like approach that, like if it's not documented anywhere, just shoot you an email or get a copy of this PowerPoint? Or?
well, one, if you want me to come and talk to the lab meeting, I'm available. My schedule's pretty full and busy, but if a faculty member wants me to talk to a theme meeting, I'll always make time. So I'll go talk. Sharing with your lab things that we're looking for people to do here today, sharing what services we offer. And if you don't know what those are, you can follow me over to our area. We have handouts that we give out that talk about all the different services we offer and what we can and what they do. I'll give as many of those out to you as I can because they are, although mostly accurate, they are old and we need new ones. So unloading them is not something I'm afraid to do. Additionally, things like, somebody's like, oh, buy me an external hard drive so I can do X. Like if you can, like what we're looking for are people who say like, you can do that same thing with Box or the file server, right? You don't need an external drive for that anymore. Pretty much I'm of the opinion the only reason to have an external drive anymore is there's two reasons. One is performance. If you need a lot of performance at the local area. So if you have a laptop and you need to be able to move a lot of data on and off of that laptop, or even if it's a higher end desktop station and you need to move a lot of data. We're talking about terabytes of data and you don't want to wait hours to get it done. Then you can have, there are certain portable devices that make sense. Another time that it makes sense is if your network connection is not always going to be reliable. If you're working in the field a lot and you need to be able to move some files around, then something like a USB drive makes sense. But if you're never leaving this building, or if all of your work is really inside of an office space, then cloud resources, the file server, those are the way to go. So if you see somebody who's in that situation where they don't meet one of those two criteria, then really making the suggestion to use local resources, use the cloud is what we're hoping that people start doing. That's a great first step. Yes?
This may be a simple question. So let's say we have like some desktop, like some Windows or Linux machine in the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Can we actually make like some folder with some network files, file server that people can just type directly the files? What kind of interface are there?
So that needs to be done on a per user basis, and as opposed to a per machine basis. We do have certain machines that are allowed to move data from point A to point B and don't have a specific user tied to that action, but it's always been a very tightly controlled situation. If you're wanting basically a machine where what people can do on a Windows machine and even on a Linux machine is you can mount your shared areas on the file server as locally as part of the file system. So on Windows machines, that shows up as a drive letter. On a Linux machine, it's just like any other time you mount stuff. It just shows up like another folder on your system. And you can read and write data into there as much as you want. What we don't want to have happen is we don't want it to where multiple people are using that one person's credentials to do that. Give you a great one, so if somebody does something they shouldn't, we know who it was. So if somebody deletes everything from the file server, we have logs. We'll know who deleted everything from the file server in that folder. But if you're all sharing a login, that just doesn't help out much at all. The other reason is, let's say someone's using your credentials to do that, and you have something come up and you're out of the country for 2 weeks, and that's when your password changes. Well, then all of a sudden the work process for everybody just grinds to a halt.
I'm just asking because I've been telling people to upload all the files to the servers, but usually the most difficult part is we didn't have any easy access to the file system. We had to go through Globus or some other. It always has to log into something and go through that, so they always just store things in the USB drive or things in the server, things in the desktop directly.